When I opened the school and opened the resource center, people made statements like the maid of the county is educating our children. But they just did not know that, with love, everything can stand. You know what I'm saying? When everything else falls apart, when the materials fall apart, when mom and dad have nothing, they have love to give. And that's what I gave those children, that a lot of people thought you should give things to them, but I gave them love. So it went from building the resource center to meeting this global nonprofit that builds technology. And computers seems to be the common denominator for children now. Food and computers drew the boys. And so when I found out it was so many young men out of school, I had the opportunity to go out in the hedges and the highway and actually recruit young men to go to the school. They had quit school. They were in the trailer parks. Some of them was on drugs. A lot of them was in the juvenile detention center. And I gave them an opportunity. I told them, all you have to do is come to school. We'll meet you where you're at. We're not going to make you come in and get to our level. We're going to get on your level. And I actually started working with the boys then. And it grew into something that I didn't even envision happening. That would be home. I would arrive at 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, actually cooking the kids' food at the resource center. And I would transport it to the Hive. And the boys would stay there, and sometimes we wouldn't leave until 9 o'clock at night. It was nothing for them to do. It was so amazing that the juvenile justice rate in all of the counties went up, but it went down in Berkeley County. And a lot of people made the statement, yeah, because Ms. Saunders had all the thugs with her. Well, that was true. I had a majority of the juvenile offenders with me. And because they had a reason to do well, they stayed with me, and they did well. And as long as the Hive was there, the juvenile rate stayed down in Berkeley County.
I'm thinking about the movie, and I did see the trailer that Hollywood had done, and as I'm watching this and thinking about you, I can remember conversations in my head, if I didn't say them out loud, that said, Vivian, you don't understand how rare you really are.
Well, you did. You said it many, many a time.
You just don't know how rare you really are. So as this journey of yours continues, where do you see it taking you?
I see it, and I'm praying that it takes us to every school district in the United States, because this is a rare population of young men and young women that people do not want to deal with. They rather lock them away than to confront the problems that they have head on. And it's just putting a Band-Aid on the situation by just working with the children at school. This is a holistic community problem that you're going to have to work with the entire family.
Yes.
You're going to have to find a way. We're going to have to find a way to actually provide services for the entire family. Bringing that kid to school, putting them in a warm and fuzzy and great environment is great, but then you got to send them back into homes where parents are on drugs, addiction, prostitution is going on. Many of the children some of the children that I encounter are being prostituted by their parents to support their drug habit. And people think in a little rural county like ours, that's not happening, but it is. It's happening. And the children are so embarrassed by it that they won't tell you. And so, I see it the movie going into the school districts. I see it educating and open up the eyes of many folk who have kind of tried to educate our children to death. And by that I mean trying to cram the standard course of study down their throat. But when I'm hungry and I don't have food in my house and I don't have light, I don't care about the standard course of study. My next meal is what my major concern is. So I see it educating people about education, about dealing with communities and families, and dealing with at-risk kids.
When you say at-risk kids, there is a profile that people inadvertently, it just pops up in their head. And I think that has also been one of your challenges, is it not? That when you have a child that is having challenges, no one wants to deal with him or her, then that puts them at a huge disadvantage of ever becoming doing anything with their lives, because no one kind of believes in them, do they? Because it's like, kind of pushed them under the rug or something? Is that what your passion's been all about?
Well, I can tell you about my personal experience. My son Dennis inspired me to do a lot of things. Dennis, at an early age, myself and my husband saw that there were some issues, there were some learning issues. And it ended up he was dyslexic, and as he got older, we found out that he suffers from bipolar disorder. And so I would go to school and I would try to advocate and I would try to fight for him. Even his modifications for children with IEPs, as individual educational plans, it was hard for me to get the regular ed teacher to implement his IEP. So when you got a kid like that, and then you got a parent who's not an advocate, that child is lost. But fortunately, I had people like you that I could ask questions about my son. I had different people in the community that I could go to. And I was just one of those mothers that you're not just going to do my baby anyway. Yeah. And so my passion began with advocating for Dennis. And as Dennis got older, I realized that the mental illness that he had was so embedded into his soul that it became a part of his life. And I see that in other children that, he can speak in a frame of mind that's so believable to people that they cannot distinguish a lie from the truth. And once I got Dennis into a great program with great psychologists, a great social program, he is excelling and doing very well in his life now. But majority of the children don't have it. It's not only learning disabilities because of, different chemical imbalances. Some of these children have some serious mental illness challenges.
Well, what I want to do is to look into that camera, and I want you to speak as if you're talking to every mother in the universe who has a child with some challenges. Mm-hmm. And I want you to tell them how they've got to advocate for their children and share with them you did it, they can do it.
Children are our gifts. It's a gift from God to have a child. It is so necessary for you to put down your problems or your barriers that you may have had in school and become an advocate. I don't care how self-conscious you feel. I'm not the most educated woman in the world. I was up against teachers and doctors and folks who were telling me, you don't know what you're talking about. But that was my son. I had ownership in him. I put my life on the line. And that's how you got to think about it when you have a child that's having issues in school. You must, it's your right as a parent to go and challenge anything that a teacher does, challenge any way that your child is being treated at school. Look up the Leandros case. The Leandros case was a case that teachers had a child just lay under the table and read a book and play. And as long as you behave, you don't have to do any of your work. Well, that's shortchanging our children. And when I read about that and found out about that, I knew right then that they were doing the same thing to my son. My son was being left out in the hallway. As long as you behave, we won't make you do your work. Well, if you want your child shortchanged and left out in the hallway, that's what I call it, well, you continue to stay home and let the teachers raise your child. But you need to get out and you need to fight for your children.